My purpose in life is to leave my dent in the universe in absolutely everything I do, as well as to inspire and help others do the same. For someone to leave their dent in my life is a privilege. For me to leave my dent in someone else's life is an honor. But to inspire and help others leave their own dent in the universe is an indescribable feeling. I plan on doing this through this podcast by celebrating my guests and inspiring my listeners, all while leaving my own dent in the universe and helping others do the same. My name is Fer Andrade, and this is Denting. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Denting with Fed. Today I have a really special guest. It's a talk I'm really excited about, a very unique story. I'm here with fellow Saintsman, Andreas Padilla. Andreas, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Thanks for being here. Rough start at the beginning, but second take, I hope this is the one that will work. Once again, would you like to introduce yourself for those that may not know you?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Andreas Padilla. I graduated from St. Augustine High School, class of 2017. Upon my graduation from Saints, the day after I graduated high school, I moved out to Alabama and started working the summer football camps. And I worked as an equipment manager for Alabama for the last 4 years. My first year I was working with the DBs. And then my second, third, and fourth year I was working with the special teams and tight ends. Upon my graduation, I accepted a director of football operations job at Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida. So I'll be getting my master's in business administration with a concentration in sports management.
That's special.
Yeah.
That's a special resume right there.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to how it started from the very beginning. You started. When did your passion for football really start?
I really didn't even know I had a passion for football until I kind of got thrown into it all. I was in Coach Sanchez's PE class freshman year.
Okay.
Didn't play freshman football at Saints. And a buddy of mine came up to me and said, what do you think about playing JV football next year? So, I gave it some thought, and then I told him, let's do it. So I went up to Coach Sanchez. He said he wanted Albert on the team, but he was going to make me an equipment manager. So my sophomore, junior, and senior year at Saints, I worked as the equipment manager, and I fell in love with it. Freshman year, I wanted to be a dermatologist. Sophomore year, I took biology, hated science. And from there on, I kind of realized that I wanted to work in sports.
Yeah, and Coach Sanchez, for those that may not know, former Saints football coach, currently at SCSU. And how did you take that news that, did you even want to play football, or was it just for your buddy?
I think a part of me wanted to learn football and have some experience playing it. I was very optimistic about the opportunity when he proposed it to me.
Okay.
I knew it wasn't going to be as glamorous as being on the field, but I was optimistic about it, and I wanted to see what it was all about.
And when you were told, you're going to be the equipment manager, how did you take that?
I just went with it.
Okay.
It was one of those things where, I just wanted to see how it would go, and I ended up falling in love with it. Did it all 3 years at Saints, and then it got me to where I am today. So I'm blessed for the opportunity. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And how were those early experiences as a manager, especially with JV, and when did you get bumped up to varsity, and what was really your role there? Because I'm a bit familiar with it because of some friends, but maybe many people don't know. So what did you do as a JV or overall high school equipment manager?
So I started off my sophomore year. I was the varsity equipment manager.
Okay.
And I was the head manager from the start. The stage that I was in my equipment career then is a lot similar to the stage I'm in right now as a director of football operations.
Interesting.
In which I'm learning a lot about the role. I'm kind of learning how everything works. Assessing equipment. That's one of the big things I'm doing right now. So there's just a lot to be learned, a lot about the operations aspect, both at Saints and at Southeastern University. But I attacked the challenge. I knew that, it was going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. I first started as a filmer, so I was filming kind of the wide angles at practice, and then we would take that wide angle with the end zone angle that we had another filmer filming, and then after practice I'd run into the football office and I'd put that into the computer, and there was a lot of trial and error at first because there wasn't a lot of coordination between the two filmers, and the coaches wanted it basically every play to be the same clip. So what I'd have to do is kind of splice the film up and have it so that the coaches can watch one clip, it was the wide angle. The next clip was the end zone angle, and then it was the next play. It kind of took us a few weeks to get on a roll where every practice we were filming the same play. But after that, it was not easy sailing, but it was definitely a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, I can completely relate to the trial and error, especially with recording. I mean, right now we have these 3 cameras, so it's the one I'm looking at, the one you're looking at, and then this third one. So it's a bit of mix up with that. What system or how did you edit it? Like, what did you use to edit those videos?
So in high school we used Game Day.
Game Day. Okay.
Game Day was a big system that we used in high school. I don't know what we used at Alabama, what the filmers used.
Okay.
I was kind of not really associated with the whole filming aspect of football in college. And now we use Huddle at Southeastern University.
Nice, yeah. Huddle's very nice.
Huddle's huge.
So you can edit with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Huddle, you can kind of, cut up the film. I don't know too much about merging the two clips together.
Yeah.
I think you just have to play one clip and then the next clip. But that's what we've been using at Southeastern is Huddle.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you talk about that filming in the beginning. Assessing equipment, what does that mean, or what exactly is the process of assessing the equipment itself?
Well, specifically right now, I'm coming into a new place where I don't know what kind of equipment we have, what the standard of the equipment is. So I'm getting there both at Saints and at Southeastern, and I'm assessing what we have, kind of what we need. If we do need anything, then I'm informing the head coach that we need to make some orders because certain position coaches want certain things for their individual positions during practice. So that was one of the things that we had to do at Saints. I had to order like just new pads, stuff like that, and so just so at practice we had enough equipment.
Yeah. So that's at Saints, and that was sophomore year when you started. Junior year, senior year. When did you decide, I want to do this in college as well?
I think it was between I think originally it was about my sophomore year when I decided I didn't want to be a dermatologist anymore. But I think it was between my junior and my senior year when I realized that there is actually, a future in this, possibly a career. Definitely, at the collegiate level, I wanted to do it. I didn't realize it was going to be something that I wanted, working in sports just yet. But, it was coming into my senior year when I realized that there are, college managers. So do you know Coach Spencer?
I think I do.
Yeah, so Coach Spencer was helping us out, and I basically went up to Coach Spencer and Coach Sanchez, and I informed them that I have an interest in doing this in college.
Yeah.
So they said, that's great. Let us know, when you get into Alabama. And I told them I was thinking about Alabama. I was thinking of other schools like Oregon, LSU, just big football schools. And basically, if I got in there and heard back from the equipment department, then I kind of knew I was going.
Yeah.
So I was actually sitting in senior year English class with Mr. Lamorato.
Shout out Mr. Lamorato.
Yeah, shout out to Mr. Lamorato. When I got my email from the head equipment manager at Alabama, and he just emailed me saying who he was and that there was a spot available, and that's kind of right then in that moment I knew that I wanted to go to Alabama to work in equipment, and I'm just beyond blessed that the opportunity was there and that it worked out the way that it did.
And when you were applying to colleges or had colleges in mind, you mentioned big football schools. Obviously, the three that you mentioned are big schools. How much of a role did that management play in you choosing those schools? For example, what I'm trying to say is, at least for me, first I was looking into the soccer aspect and that recruitment, and then I ended up applying to that college. Was it, I mean, obviously the process is different for you, but were you thinking the whole time, you know what, let me apply to big football schools because that's what I want to focus on throughout my 4 years?
I think the prerequisite for me in a university was you'd probably be a Power 5 school,
Okay.
ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, Pac-12.
Pac-12.
Yeah. I wanted a big school experience. I wanted the raw football experience. I'm actually lucky that Alabama was, kind of the first school I heard back from. And it was just, once I heard from them, I knew I was going to Alabama. But before accepting, the opportunity, or before accepting to go to a school, I had to hear back from the equipment, department. And like I said, thankfully I was able to hear back from Alabama equipment.
Pretty soon.
Yeah.
So you graduate. Next day you're headed to camp. What's it like? Because for many football players, camp in college is the thing they're looking forward to the most. Their whole, at least high school experience, if not even before that. What was it like for you showing up, not at any college football team, you're showing up at Nick Saban's camp, you're showing up with stars that are currently in the NFL. What were you thinking? What was it like showing up on that field?
So actually, that first camp that I showed up to was a high school football camp that college camps or that colleges put on, but there was still amazing talent there. There was 5-star O-linemen.
Some ended up playing at Alabama for sure.
100%. But I was still very, what's the word for it? I was very anxious.
Okay.
I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't really understand the scale of the facilities that I was going to be working at. I was just, we like to call it bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. That's the way I was. I was looking for what ways that I could, contribute and kind of stand out. I knew that, moving out the day after that I graduated high school was going to stand out to my bosses. And that's what I wanted because I wanted to be hired as soon as possible. But I don't really think that I could truly expect what I was walking into.
Yeah. With the hiring, so it's not something that you go into and maybe get a scholarship for or anything like that. It's a job. It's a full-time job or part-time or...
So the way it works is we get trainees, and trainees only work 1 practice a week. You work Thursday nights packing the truck, and then you work like 5 home games. You don't travel as a trainee, nor are you paid. And it's basically from this trainee pool where the equipment, our bosses, the full-time equipment guys, we have 2 full-time equipment guys and then an intern. They hire from this trainee pool. So there's 15 full-time managers, and my first year, my freshman year, I was a trainee, so I didn't, I only worked like 5 home games, wasn't on staff or anything. The day after the national championship, we won, Tua threw the ball to Devontae Smith.
Yeah,
that was a great game. But the day after is when I got the phone call saying that I was hired.
Wow.
So I mean, that was basically the earliest hiring period because, the seniors that were leaving after the season, they kind of left after the national championship game. That's just the way it works out. So there were spots available, literally the day after, and I was blessed to have one of those spots.
That's interesting to me that you mentioned that, and it's something I definitely am, I wouldn't say obsessed, but maybe just I admire it at a completely different level. Alabama football is where it is for a reason. It's not just overnight success. And you mentioning that the staff is already working literally the day after the national championship, literally the day after such a big game. First off, what's the culture like there? Obviously many people know, but not many people know. But what I'm trying to say is, what is it like for someone in your position, and how much are you, like, how committed do you have to be in comparison to the student athletes? Is it full-time you're there as well, literally the day after, or is it not as much, or what's your role there within the Alabama football culture?
Well, the commitment level at Alabama is absolutely insane. That's something that I tell people. I'll get people that come up to me and say, I want to be a equipment manager too. Like, can you help me get my foot in the door? And the first thing I say to them is, do you realize how much of a time commitment this is? I mean, you don't get to go out, at date parties at Alabama on Thursday nights because you're busy packing the truck. You're working during the season. You're almost working every day. Even on Sundays we work. We'd get back from road games at like 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I mean, sometimes we'd even get back at like 8 a.m. depending on how far away the game was. Yeah. I mean, there were some games that were like night games, like Missouri, for example. Missouri was a night game, I believe in my senior year. And the bus crew, thankfully I was on the flight for that, so I got to get home early. But the bus crew got back at I think 7 a.m. it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then you got to work the next day, basically cleaning the jerseys, unpacking the trunks, getting everything ready for the next Saturday. So in terms of, the season, it's a nonstop grind. It's honestly unreal how much of a well-oiled machine a program like Alabama is. Everybody knows that they have a job, and everybody is, kind of focused on their specific job because you have a higher power. You have a boss everyone's got a boss, but it's almost kind of elevated when your boss's boss is Coach Saban, and if you mess up your part of the job, then your boss is going to hear from Coach Saban, and then you basically get that yelling kind of passed down to you.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I didn't get yelled at too much. There were a few times that I did get yelled at. But, I mean, the commitment level is insane tonight, and I always tell people that, even after the national championship, there's still work to be done. It almost is a year-round job, not necessarily for student managers, definitely for my bosses, who have things scheduled all around the year, whether it be recruit visits, just like organized team activities that we have to be there. Basically, anytime the team has to be, at the facility, either doing like a 7-on-7 or a full-on practice or a walkthrough or anything, the equipment managers have to be there because there's laundry that needs to be passed out. These players aren't always going to keep track of their laundry.
No.
And yeah, exactly. So they'll have to come up to the equipment room saying, I can't find my workout shirt. And what would happen if the equipment managers weren't there?
Yeah.
They would. Everyone has to be in uniform, and it's our job to make sure that everyone's in the uniform. And if the equipment managers aren't there, then obviously Coach Saban's going to be yelling at our bosses.
Yeah.
But things definitely do slow down after the national championship. Once we get through that week of, putting the trunks away for the storage for the kind of the season, we kind of, as student equipment managers, we go to working about 8 hours a week for a few weeks, while the players are doing the fourth quarter conditioning program.
Okay.
So yeah, things do slow down in the spring just a little bit.
You mentioned players not always having their things ready, and I mean, that really makes sense, especially in a football program because of how many players there are. I can relate to that in a way, and I'm talking about not as big as a program, and I'm talking about a soccer program where there's less players. But out of curiosity, what would happen if a player didn't show up in uniform at Alabama, or did that just never happen at all?
So, uniform is something that we stress a lot at Alabama. even when players are coming out onto the field, Coach Saban is yelling at guys to untuck. Sometimes they'll roll up their jersey inside their shoulder pads, and he's always yelling at them like, put your jersey in your pants, tuck your jersey in your pants. So the uniform is something that's very heavily stressed at Alabama. On game day, we have plenty of backups for players in case they bust through a pair of cleats. A player can't play if he doesn't have a backup pair of cleats. So that's something that we as equipment managers need to make sure that he's got. But at practice, say we can't find a player's helmet. That player can't practice that day. Players only have 2 helmets. Some players, like quarterbacks and specialists, only have 1. And that's just so we can they only really need 1 because they're not taking the impact like a O lineman or D lineman are taking. But if he doesn't have his helmet, then he can't practice, and then
if you don't practice,
you
don't play for at least 1-2 games, or did that ever even happen? Honestly, because I think that obviously the Coach Saban just won't allow it, but I'm curious to know if the players are at that level of discipline as well, or if they're just formed that way by the coach.
Well, thankfully, it never happened where a player had to, not play a game because he didn't practice that week due to equipment issues. But there have been other disciplinary issues that the staff has had to, hold a player out of a game for a certain reason.
No, that's completely understandable, and it happens everywhere. And I've seen it in so many sports, whether at my time at Cal or somewhere else. So that makes complete sense. So moving on, your sophomore year, you get that call. What's up next? You mentioned that in the spring, obviously it's a bit lighter, but what happened right after that? Did your roles change, or what was your feeling with that phone call? And then afterwards, the realization that, all right, it's time to work.
Well, I think once I got that phone call, I knew immediately what the phone call was going to be about. Okay. I was, just immediate excitement just going through me. But then right after that, I knew it was time to truly buckle down. Now I had an official title, so I had to take college a lot more seriously. My time management, I had to take a lot more seriously. My first semester as a freshman, so this was my spring semester of freshman year, I was working with the defensive backs. Okay. And it was actually, I was standing behind Coach Saban on at one practice, and there was a picture taken of us. It was myself and then my boss and then Coach Saban. And
I saw that.
This picture was actually in Sports Illustrated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that you posted it, right? And it's like working with my dog or something like that, right?
Yeah. But my attitude in terms of the job, it never really changed. Every day that I showed up to work at Alabama, I knew that it was, head down, focus on what's at task, and just do it to the best of my, my capabilities. So that's just, that's the way it went my first semester working with the DBs. They actually did switch me after, that spring semester of freshman year. They switched me to the special teams and the tight ends, where I stayed for the rest of my time with Alabama. But, just likewise, I never really changed my attitude about the job. And it was kind of funny because, amongst the equipment staff, we kind of joke about working with the special teams and the tight ends is not really being as glamorous as working with the quarterbacks or working with the wide receivers. Alabama's known for their wide receivers and their quarterbacks and their O-line and their just basically every other position but, special teams. If there's anything that Alabama's known for, it's probably known for not having, historically, not having great kickers.
Yeah.
Kickers have just kind of a bad rap at Alabama.
Okay.
So it's kind of ironic, actually, for someone, some kid from San Diego to get thrown into the spotlight and at Alabama, with basically the most hated position at Alabama because, diehard fans, they will dog cuss our kickers whenever they miss.
Wow.
But it's kind of funny how it comes full circle because, my junior year we actually ended up losing a game to Auburn due to a missed kick. And the fans stormed the field, and it was just a heartbreaking loss. We missed the playoff because of the loss. But, senior year, we actually had one of the best years, special teams wise, that Alabama's ever had. Our kicker didn't miss a single kick, and it was something great to be a part of. But it was just, it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's special in every sense. And you talked about your attitude right now. You talked about how you impressed your bosses by showing up the day after graduation. I think that many people, doesn't matter what job it is, I think many people don't understand that to excel at whatever it is you have to work harder than the person next to you. And for many people in college athletics, the first thing the majority will think of is the athlete, right? But in your case, what extra things did you do, or how did you show that attitude to your bosses and just to everyone around you to say, you know what, I'm here to do a serious job. I'm here to work at the level that Alabama football requires me to work at?
Well, a lot of it, I just try to kind of, mind my own business and kind of just like stay in my own lane. I didn't try to, get caught up with the affairs of other people. I just basically tried to not necessarily outwork other people, because there's kind of a competition aspect to that.
Yeah.
And we are a team, we're not an individual, it's not a equipment competition.
Yeah.
I was in a way kind of trying to outwork myself. I guess that's the best way to put it. If I did, notice that someone was slacking, or notice that, they were about to be yelled at or called out for something, I would help them and kind of just, tell them, like, hey, you might want to fix that before a coach gets on you about that. But I would never try to, throw somebody under the bus for something just to make myself look better.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I get that, and I think you bring up a special point where you're competing against yourself. I have this phrase in my mind that anytime I'm working out or just training, I think it's you versus you, and that's what it should be, and what it is, at least for me, the whole time. Because I mean, my personal experience, I redshirted my freshman year, and I was like, you know what, I have to be better than this or this or this guy. And then I realized, you know what, no, it has nothing to do with the guy next to me. Sure, I will outwork them in whatever way I can outside of practice, but really once I'm there, it's only against myself. Like the whole point is to improve on who I was yesterday, who I was a week ago or last game or whatever, and that's my mentality towards that. So I measured it as to how I was doing in practice or my performance there, how many minutes I was getting or things like that my sophomore year. How do you measure it? How does an equipment manager measure, you know what, I'm doing better in this aspect, or I improved from last game in this area? How do you measure that? Are there any metrics with your bosses or anything you guys had in mind?
Well, during the season, a lot of it is routine, but one of the things that I would always kind of run through my head after I'd be leaving the facility, if I did mess up, was like, how could I fix that tomorrow? How can I get better tomorrow? And it's actually funny you said just outworking yesterday, because that was literally a slogan that, like, once you walked into the facility from the player entrance at Alabama, you look on the right and it says outwork yesterday, and that's literally a motto that all the players, including basically everyone in the building, tries to do, is just outwork yesterday. And you just do that by, getting better, fixing your mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but making mistakes over and over again, that's when it's not okay.
Yeah, there's a problem there.
Right, that's when it becomes habitual and it's not basically not acceptable, especially specifically at a place like Alabama. But just I developed thick skin. Getting yelled at was just part of the job. But if it was something that I truly did mess up, I would take it to heart a little bit, but then I would kind of take that energy and just focus on how can I get better?
Yeah.
How can I fix this so I don't do that again?
No. And with that improvement and that culture that you mentioned within Alabama of Outwork Yesterday, how does that culture even begin? I'm sure it starts with the coaches, but is it the signs around there, or how the veterans are exceeding the younger guys, or how does one just fall into the culture? Because it's always been interesting to me. These guys are as good as football players as it gets. You are working for as good as a program as it gets, and you're all college students. You're all either teenagers or just young 20s messing around at some point. How do people there, especially being, like I said, that popular within the program, find that discipline or stick with that? Is it just how bad you want to work for that program, or what makes you all just fall into Saban's culture?
Well, I don't know exactly, where the players get their motivation. I think a lot of them, want to make it to the NFL. I would say almost all of them want to make it to the NFL. But in terms of just the culture, I think it all starts at the top in terms of, Coach Saban. He is in the building every day at like 8 o'clock, and he's leaving at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I mean,
that's 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
He's almost there like 12, 13 hours a day, I would say.
Oh.
And he's very, I've never seen anyone like him. He's just straight, on a schedule every day. It's his way or the highway, basically. And it just all stems down, the coaches understand that there's an expectation, Coach Saban's expectation, and the players, it basically all trickles down. It honestly is kind of undescribable about what the culture is like, where people find their motivation. But you can kind of see when a player is starting to get, when practice is starting to get inside of a player's head, you can kind of see like other players like pick him up and just get back on that tempo of being on that, high intensity practice.
Yeah, I'm sure it's something every single player has experienced one way or another. You can't have a perfect day every single day, especially under that pressure. And speaking of that pressure and all that discipline it takes, let's take a step back and remember that you're also a student throughout that whole time.
Yep.
You got a bachelor's in marketing?
Yep.
Yeah, so how was that? How is your school schedule around all of that working out for you?
So thankfully, they give us equipment managers priority enrollment, so we were able to kind of pick our classes based off of practice times. You had to be at work every day by 1:30. So basically, my mornings would be filled with classes, and then had to be at work by 1:30. Say if you have like a class conflict, you have to make up that time whenever before 1:30, but whenever you don't have class. But time management was really a skill that I didn't have perfected, nor do I have it perfected right now, by no means. But it was one of those skills that I had to refine just to get by at Alabama, because if I couldn't pass my classes, then, I would be out of my job. I would be out of the university, basically. But it was a challenge. I think it's a lot harder for the players because they have to learn the playbook, and they have to, maintain their physical and mental state. Thankfully, there's a ton of resources for them. But it's still a heavy load for people our age to be carrying at a school like Alabama.
Yeah. And what made you choose marketing?
Originally, I was business management,
Yeah.
but I took a marketing class and I kind of fell in love with the idea of trying to sell people on the merits of something. And I just felt like marketing was going to be a better fit for me with my future career paths. I didn't exactly know what yet I wanted to do as a career. Now that I have this job as a director of football operations, I think I'm kind of narrowing down on, wanting to be a DFO. But I just there was a call to for marketing, and it's a great degree. I love it.
Yeah, and right before that, you mentioned the priority enrollment, which I'm familiar with, of course, and the making up the time for missing classes, was that common at all?
Yeah.
Like missing classes, and what did that mean? Showing up at 8 a.m. to do that work, or what sort of thing?
Yep. So you basically, you had to make up that time. Say I had a class conflict at I had a class at 6:30.
Okay.
So I'd have to leave practice still a little bit early. As practice kind of wrapping up. Practice will end at 5:45, 6. But you're still there for another hour because you have to pack up the laundry, put it into the bins, put all the equipment up into the shed. So if I had to leave class at 6 o'clock so I could get to my 6:30 class, I would have to make up that 30 minutes of makeup time, or more like an hour. But yeah, I'd have to show up at, whatever time would work for me. Sometimes that was in between classes. If I had an 8 a.m. and I had a 11:30, then I'd have to make it up at about 9:45, 10.
Yeah, you would have to show up at 1:30
every day.
And by 7-ish
Oh, yeah.
p.m. you weren't done?
Yeah, it's about 6, and that's not including laundry. So
Wow.
you have one laundry night a week. Thankfully, as your seniority kind of goes up, you kind of have easier nights. The harder nights are Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Thursdays too are hard nights because you have to pack the truck at the same time. But Sunday nights are easy nights, and that was towards my later years. That was a night that I had a lot more often.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, imagine being a sophomore and having to do laundry on a Tuesday night, and you have a test for your 6:30 class on a Tuesday night. So you'd have to, be studied for that test before you go to work at 1:30. You have to leave work a little bit early, go do that test, and you'd have to come back
And do laundry.
Yeah, and then you got to eat in between then because.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a grind. Seriously.
I feel like that schedule is harder than the majority of student athletes.
But that's why us equipment managers are here, because our job is to make their lives easier.
Yeah.
In terms of just equipment, equipment wise, the players get there, they got a towel in their laundry locker, their lube, with all their workout clothes is all in their laundry locker. They still have, like I said, they still have a lot on their load to carry, but as long as we can, ensure that they're good to go come practice time or their workout in the morning, their 5 a.m. workout in the morning, 6 a.m. actually, then we were good to go.
Yeah. And was there a different squad or somebody else working in that morning? Because you mentioned there's workouts in the morning, or is it only the squad from 1:30 to 7?
So I mentioned the 15 equipment managers.
Yeah.
We all had morning work at some point during the semester. It was about 3 times a semester you'd have morning work, and it was just 3 guys that would have to show up to work that morning work. And like I said earlier, whenever the team's there, we have to be there to make sure that they're in their full uniform, in their workout clothes, and they got socks. And say a player shows up and his laces are busted on his shoes. That's stuff like that, just random stuff that you would never expect. It happens all the time. The players would show up and their shoes would be missing because the maintenance crew, the janitors would misplace it in a different locker. So just random stuff like that was stuff that the 3 equipment managers that had to be there for morning work, would have to attend to. So say you had that test Tuesday night, and then you had laundry that night, and then you had morning work the next day. Yeah,
Jeez.
That's when it gets tough.
Yeah.
That's when you start thinking about, like, is this really cut out for me?
How bad do you want it? And that's what it goes down to.
How bad do you want it? Yeah. I've actually heard Coach Saban literally say those words. How bad do you want it? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I guess we share some familiar words with that outwork yesterday and this, but the whole program, just outside. I'm not like huge on football. I don't know much, but the reason I tend to watch Alabama every weekend isn't really for the football. It's for the execution and how you see Coach Nick Saban just work every single. Because the thing that's special is that every year there's new players, but the result is exactly the same. So
almost every year we have an entire new coaching staff.
Because they all go head coach somewhere else, right?
Right. Once you get Alabama on your resume, your job opportunities, they basically multiply, and you're going on to somewhere with a higher role. Our offensive coordinators are becoming offensive coordinators in the NFL. One of our offensive Steve Sarkisian, who used to be a head coach at USC, was now the head coach at Texas after being our OC for 2 years. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing, almost every year we were getting a new offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, and we still came out with the same results.
That's insane.
Yeah, almost every year, yeah.
Yeah. With those values, I'm not sure if you're too familiar, but there's something a philosophy that I'm a big fan of that I try to practice every day. It's Stoicism, and my favorite author, which is a Stoic author, Ryan Holiday, he has a talk at Alabama. I don't know if you were there while he gave that talk, or if there's anything, any specific phrase or anything that Saban preaches, or any sign on the wall that has to do with anything like that. Do you know? Or
no, I'm not aware of that.
Okay, yeah, he gave a talk. I don't know which year it was, but I was just curious on that regardless. But
I want to look that up.
Yeah, no, I'll send it to you after.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
And if anything, I'll just leave the link for that below. Shout out Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
If he ever watches this, that'd be great. But we'll see. Moving on with that, you just mentioned one of the coaches, and you called him by his nickname.
Sark. Yeah.
Yes, and before this, you mentioned Devontae Smith, and you called him by his nickname too.
Smitty, yep.
That's ridiculous for me, because, well, I think for me and for everybody outside of Alabama, because you just see these people and it's like, wow, crazy. And then you just know them, you have a relationship with them.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love working in sports so much, is because, to me, working in sports, these guys are, they're the reason why I work, they're the reason why I show up to work every day. But at the same time, they're guys our age, There's nothing much different besides them and us, besides the fact that they're, great athletes. But guys, these athletes are the reason why I love to do what I do. I love being around the athletes. They're great people. They appreciate you. They understand how many hours you're working. And they know that, a lot of the stuff that they do on the field couldn't be done because we're there. And you kind of notice that appreciation that they have for you. They'll mess around with you and kind of like, if it's your birthday, for example, one of their favorite things to do is like grab you and throw you in the cold tub. But they're great people to be with, and I'm excited, as I continue working in sports to continue to meet athletes and get to know them.
Yeah. So, don't take it as stalking, but something I have to do for all of us is to study. So I went through your LinkedIn and your Instagram, which is how I know some of these things. Yeah. But when you're talking about these athletes, everybody knows the Alabama athletes, but a few of the guys you have on Instagram, like pictures with, Tua is there.
Yeah.
We mentioned the Sports Illustrated with Coach Saban. Quinnen Williams, which went viral after that one clip on the interview.
Bless you. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly that one. Mac Jones, Najee Harris, and so many others. What is it like you mentioned that relationship, but you said that's why you show up every single day. What is it about them that makes you want to continue showing up? Is it taking a role in their greatness on the field? Is it getting to know, like you said, they're not much different than us besides the fact that they're superstar athletes, right? But for many people, maybe that's hard to understand, like, what do you mean they're superstar athletes? But in reality, once you get to know these people, and it's happened to me because some of the people I've met at Cal that are special on a world stage as well, they're just your everyday student. If you don't know that they're athletes, they're your everyday student. So what is it about that relationship with them that makes you want to show up and work every single day?
Well, I think what you said is great about, you being able to be a part of their success and, helping them out. For example, after practice, some days, actually every day after practice, Smitty would catch balls on the jugs machine. That was his goal, is like every day he had to catch 100 balls after practice, and the players would already be in the locker room. One of the things I would have to do is, the kickers would want to kick after practice, get a certain amount of kicks in. So as the equipment guys were picking up, I would have to shag for the kickers because they wanted to get more kicks in. So just, seeing your effort translate into player success on the field is something that's a truly rewarding experience. But just also having relationships with these players, being someone that these players can come to, because these players see you as one of them, even though you're not an athlete. They know that you're not going to come up to them and ask for an autograph like people, on game day would.
No.
They know that you're not going to bother them about something. They know that, you're basically just one of them. I mean, we're not student athletes, but we have all, a lot of the perks that they do, and we're working just as hard as they are, but just in a different aspect.
There's two interesting things that you mentioned right off the bat right there. The first one is on the autographs and the pictures. There's no chance when I say we, it's 99% of student athletes can relate to the attention and the media that those guys are getting, because like I mentioned, they're superstars for so many people. So just the fact that they can relax around you, I think that's special.
Yeah.
But the other thing you mentioned on Smitty, I'm not going to call him Smitty because I don't know him, but Devontae Smith, and the kickers just doing that extra work. I think that the fact that you see that, because the things that we see every weekend are the highlight of the work, but the fact that you get to see everything that they do before and everything that they have to do to get to where they are on the spotlight that Saturday or Friday night or Thursday night, whenever it is, on ESPN or any platform.
Yeah.
I think that's really special. Did you learn anything from that, or something that you took away like, wow, like, not, well, I mean, if you want to mention a specific moment of somebody that just impressed you and like, wow, how is he still doing this? But also the takeaway for you, or it's something you can apply to your own life that maybe anybody that's listening or watching can apply to their life as well.
Well, I think that these guys are a great example about what it means to be great, about just what extent it takes to be great. Just putting in that extra work, even when that extra work has already, been put in during practice. I mentioned Smitty, catching 100 balls after practice, but it wasn't even Smitty, our best receiver, possibly college football's ever seen. It was our walk-ons too that were getting extra work in. That's just the extent to which the culture of Alabama is. Guys would go after a grueling practice and go into the weight room and get a pump in. I mean, it's unreal just how motivated these guys are because they want to be great. So just like we said earlier, to anyone that's listening that wants to be great, we were saying earlier, outwork yourself. Are you really outworking yourself after practice? Because like when you really outwork yourself, like you can barely carry yourself off the field. That's and I've seen it happen, where guys just like they cannot. Yeah,
they can't do anything else outside of that. And just so people in the audience understand, because I feel like, once again, the grand majority, 99%, aren't going to understand what Alabama football practice is. It's not having fun and doing some drills.
Yeah.
It's how long. Describe what a practice is like.
So yeah, we like I said, we set up at 1:30. Walkthrough starts at about 3:00. So I would have to be out at practice by about 2:50 because the first walkthrough was my special teams walkthrough. So when we're installing stuff towards the beginning of the year, installing new plays, that's when I'd be out there setting my drills up for special teams walk. And then after special teams walk, we go into like our offense and defense walks, and if it was like the first practice of the week, then that's when we'd have our corrections where we'd correct whatever we missed. Say the opposing offense threw something at us that we practiced, last week. We practiced this coming into this game, but we still messed it up on this play. That was something that we'd have to correct. So it's just like finding ways to improve in every little aspect, whether it be, you messed that up in the game last week, or it's a skill set of yours that it's not your greatest. That's just, there's so many things. There's so many ways that you can get better. But yeah, at 3:00 we're starting. Stretching starts at about 3:30, and then after that we're going into like our warm-up drills, where like more like our ball security drills. So during this time, us managers are hitting the players with pads as different positions are kind of matched up with different positions, like quarterbacks, wide receivers would be matched up against the defensive backs for our ball security drills. Tight ends would be matched up against our outside linebackers, running backs against our inside linebackers, and this is just like a 5-minute drill type deal. But after that, that's when we start going into like our starts, and then from there, that's when we go into like our team periods or individual. Individual lasts about 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
But by the time the practice is done, like I said, it was about 5:45, 6:00.
3 hours of practice.
Just about.
And then they still worked out in the morning as a reminder. So they worked out. They have their 6 a.m. workout, which lasts 1 hour to 1 hour and a half, 2 hours?
Yeah, just about an hour and 15.
Okay, so an hour and 15 workout, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
At least the players, right? They show
There's
up.
about I think they work out about like, during the season, I think they work out about 3 times a week. They kind of try to lighten the load on how much you're working out during the season, because football's, such a grueling sport. There's so much wear and tear on the body, but yeah, it's about 3 times during the season.
Alright, so lifting or working out 3 times a week during the season.
Yep.
Then they're doing a 3-hour practice, and then they're getting that extra work. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize. That's what it really takes to be great. That's what it takes to reach the top. And I think that many people just don't understand that. I think many people will say, you know what, I really worked hard in this drill, or I did well in this practice. But people don't understand that this isn't about practice. It's about every single day. It's about your habits. It's about waking up at 5 a.m. for that 6 a.m. lift or 6 a.m. workout. It's about trying to balance some sort of school throughout that, because that's just what it takes. So I think that's special. With that, and closing up on your Alabama phase of your life, or your Alabama experience, what is one of the best memories you would say for you working at Alabama football?
There's quite a few that I could think of, come right to me. I think going viral was definitely one of them. Going viral for picking up the kickoff tee.
That's I have it written down here. The tee guy. Tell me about that story and
Yeah.
what happened.
That wasn't actually the first time I went viral. I went viral like 2 years earlier for another video of me picking up the kickoff tee. But this one, we had just won the 2020 SEC championship game against Florida. We were driving back from Atlanta to Tuscaloosa, and I was scrolling through Twitter, and I'm like, "What? That's me!" And it was a video of from a news reporter that she tweeted, and it was me running after the kickoff tee. And then basically, I think that video must have gotten like a million views, but then it got posted onto TikTok, and then just things blew up on TikTok.
Yeah.
I think on TikTok, all the videos combined must have gotten at least like 5 million, 6 million views.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's funny because like people at Alabama like recognized me. It was weird. Like I was on a date with my girlfriend. We weren't dating we weren't, boyfriend and girlfriend at the time yet. But I was on a date with her. It was actually our first date. And some guy comes up to me and he's pointing at me. He's like, and he's kind of speechless. It was really weird. It was kind of awkward at first. He had the same neck gaiter that I had on, the black and white Alabama neck gaiter that I always wore during COVID. So to not make it awkward, I was like, "Where'd you get that neck gaiter?" And he's like, "I've been timing every single one of your runs." He's like, I'm a high school coach. I've been timing every single. I love it, man. And it was so funny because I'd never seen this dude ever. And I'm like, who is this guy? But it was hilarious. I actually got to know him and his wife pretty well. They traveled to all the Alabama games.
Nice.
Super sweet people. I love them. But yeah, it was kind of funny just how many people recognized me for doing my job, which I honestly, I didn't even try to sprint after the kickoff tee to go viral. I was just doing it because A, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But B, just kind of goes back to the thing about if you have a job, especially at Alabama, I only get one job. I have multiple roles at Alabama, but if one of my roles is picking up the kickoff tee in front of 100,000, screaming fans, then I'm gonna do that like 110%. So that's what I always do.
That.
Yeah. And it's funny that it actually kind of worked out for me, and I went viral for it. But yeah, it was pretty fun going viral. Another thing that I could think of right off the bat, I don't know if you've seen that video of LSU playing Mo Bamba. If you haven't, look it up. But it was during warm-ups, and I was like smack dab in the middle of the field, and LSU, as part of their warm-up, played Mo Bamba. And it was literally just me in the middle of the field with the kickers. The teams had already been in the locker room. They were in the locker room getting ready for the game, ready to come out for the game. And the stadium played Mo Bamba, and literally everybody erupted, started singing that song.
Wow.
And I got goosebumps. Just, standing in the middle of the field, looking all around and hearing everyone's, sing Mo Bamba. It was pretty cool.
Was that at LSU?
That was at LSU, yeah. LSU is probably my favorite away stadium that we played at, just because, LSU had great food, but it was also the loudest stadium I've ever been to. Like that, we blew them out that year. I think the score was like 20. I think it was like 23-0.
Okay.
We didn't let them score.
Wow.
But nonetheless, like they did not stop screaming. Like we would not, microphones aside, we would not be able to have a conversation like if I were like right here and you were right there.
Wow.
You could not hear because it was just constant screaming.
College football is just different.
It's unreal. A lot of people don't realize that out here. College football in California is not like what it is in the SEC. Yeah.
No.
Seriously.
It's different. And even then, I'm talking about you and all these either now pro football players or amazing staff, but you mentioned LSU. You're playing against people that are still insane.
100%.
There's some good quarterbacks coming out of LSU, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No.
I remember when we lost to LSU came to Tuscaloosa the year. I think it was the year after that. Yeah, the year after that, LSU came to Tuscaloosa. Donald Trump was at the game.
Wow.
And they beat us that game. They went on to win the national championship. But yeah, I mean, just it's cool seeing the amount of talent that, seeing opposing talent, and we're still beating up on them. Like I was there for Kyler Murray's last collegiate game.
Wow.
It was the Orange Bowl down in Miami. It was a playoff game. We won that game and went on to the national championship.
So that was Kyle's last game.
Yeah, that was Kyler Murray's last college game ever. And
I mean, even that, and like I mentioned, I was messing around with the quarterback, but obviously like Joe Burrow, and just amazing other players that you get to literally see right there. It's not even front row; it's on the field. So
yeah.
I think that's another thing that's really special, and the attention it gets. You mentioned Donald Trump and so many people that literally just pull up for these games, and I don't know. I think it's unreal. And the SEC football is just unreal overall. With SEC, I mean you guys won SEC plenty of times, but then the national championships as well. Yeah. So do you want to go over what you guys won and the rings as well?
So this right here is my 2018 SEC championship ring. This game was the game where Tua got injured and Jalen Hurts had to come back, and this was against Georgia. So this was a comeback game. This was the year after we won the national championship against Georgia, so it was kind of nice to be on the field, the second time that we beat Georgia in a row. I think we've beaten them like 4 or 5 times in a row, maybe more actually. But this was the 2018 SEC championship game, and this was my first ring overall. Love this ring. This right here is my 2020 SEC championship ring. This was the ring that we beat Florida this past year. This is my second ring overall. Same stadium in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. This was a great game and just an amazing opportunity to be a part of, just like all these rings are. But yeah. And then lastly, I think I'm the most glad to be getting this ring because I was a part of that staff in 2018 that went on to the national championship and lost to Clemson. We got blown out by Clemson that year. So with that being said, this is my senior year. This was last year. We beat Ohio State, and I was just, this entire season with COVID and all, I didn't know if we were even going to have a season. It's almost kind of selfish to say that, like, I was hoping that I wouldn't leave college without a national championship ring, but thankfully, the season worked out the way that it did, and Alabama, we won every game this year, including the national championship game, and I'm, just blessed to have this ring. So this was at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, the same game that I saw Kyler Murray play.
Yeah.
But I was on the opposite sideline this time.
Yeah, no, that's... Oh, last one, yeah.
Yeah, I got one more. This is my A-Club ring. This is a ring that, the A-Club's only like athletics. After 4 years, you get this ring right here. So the A-Club has perks. It's kind of a seniority type deal, whereas as members, pass on, your benefits kind of go up. It's a lot more modest, which is why I like it. It's a lot easier to wear than these super gaudy rings, but another great ring.
I mean, those are things you're going to be talking about for a lifetime, quite literally. That the victory cigars, everything that comes along with it, I think is special. But once again, you're looking at these rings right now. You can look at all your pictures with the victory cigars, but people don't understand the work that it took to get there. And that's exactly why I have this podcast. I want to talk with people about what it takes, because maybe many people aren't familiar with what an equipment manager is, or why you have all those rings or these pictures, these relationships, these contacts, but there's a lot of work behind that. So That's great overall with your Alabama experience. And moving on to what's next in your life right now. You're going to Southeastern Lakeland, Florida. You're getting an MBA focused on sports management, and then you're working as director of football operations there for the football team. Coming from Alabama football, what's the biggest lesson you could give to that team, just right off the bat?
Well, I think the biggest lesson that I can give to the team, and I think it's just showing them what hard work, what kind of expectations you can, or what kind of results you can expect with the hard work that you put in. So that's one of my challenges to myself is, how can I make this place the best possible version of it, with my impact. The resources aren't as many as Alabama. So that's one of my biggest challenges as the director of football operations. But just showing these guys what hard work can really get you is something that I'm hoping to show to these guys. I'm hoping to show a lot of it through just by leading by example. I feel like that's one of the best ways to teach people is by leading by example. But yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait to change this program for the better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And I think, like you just mentioned, the resources are different. And going from the number one team for college football in the nation, on the planet, whatever you want to call it, I think moving to any other team is just going to be different, and it's a completely different experience. But I think it's definitely going to help you and make you grow. I think it may even force you to grow. So that's going to be special for you. What is your job like? What does a DFO do? And tying that into your future, why did you choose this role, and what is it that you want to connect it with, whether it be your MBA or whatever future job you want to get into?
Well, going forward, I think I've kind of narrowed down on being a director of football operations. I think I want to go back to the collegiate level after, or rather stay in the collegiate level. At some point during my career, I want to test out the waters in the NFL. But I think I have for sure narrowed down, that role that I want to specifically work as, and that's, director of football operations. The director of football operations, man, there's so much that they have to oversee. Basically, everyday operations of the team, whether it be, scheduling stuff, like scheduling hotels for future games, scheduling meals, scheduling travel. With my background in equipment, one of the things that they are expecting a lot out of me is to help out with the equipment department. So ordering equipment is something that I've been doing. Issuing a lot of that equipment. Right now, I have my foot in the door with a lot of the equipment operations at Southeastern. As I get a little bit more help, I'll be able to kind of transition more into administrative stuff. But I will be in charge of just basically being the head coach's right-hand man. So basically all the head coach's right-hand man, or not the head coaches, all of the coaches' right-hand man, so that they can focus specifically on the X's and O's, the coaching, and not as much as, the small itty-bitty stuff.
And the administrative stuff,
right.
Besides that.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's going to open up a lot of doors for you, obviously, and we'll see what's in store for you for the future. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close out this episode?
Oh man, well I want to thank you so much for having me on. This has been a truly unique experience, and I've loved it.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing this episode. Obviously, like, one thing is sitting down here, but I'm already excited to watch it. So this was a great episode. Your insight was amazing. Your stories were amazing. Thank you for accepting this offer.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to do this again with you after you.
Yeah, hopefully next time we come together, I mean, I'll have some new stories to tell.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, well, that's it for this episode of Denting with Fed. Thank you guys all for either watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify. If you're on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, just make sure to click all the buttons. That's it for today. I'll see you all next week, and yeah, have a good day.
Awesome, man.
That was great, bro.
Thank you.
Let's see. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Make sure to subscribe to my podcast and follow me on my personal social media accounts for more. All at Fer Andreas. All links are in the description. If this episode inspired you in any way, please help me out by sharing it with a friend to help them leave their dent in the universe as well. That's it for today. I'll see you all next time.